Over the past 6 years, I've made a lot of vintage hardcover journal. This is just a portion of them. Some I still absolutely love. Others, let's say they were great learning experiences. Today I'm going to walk you through these journals, share what worked, what didn't, and most importantly, what I do differently if I were starting them today. So if you're planning to turn an old book into a junk journal, watch this first. It might just save you from headaches down the road. Welcome, it's Barbara from Vienna, Austria. Let's start with this one here. As you can see, it's Art Nouveau themed. I made this journal 3 years ago, and this was a design team project for the Digital Collage Club. Love the cover 2 bits. I left the back plain so you could see the actual original vintage cover. But the big problem is the spine. So I wanted to test making an open spine, which can be very, very beautiful. But the mistake I made here was to use just 3 fabric pieces to hold the covers together. And the result is that it moves. Now this might not bother some of you, but it definitely bothers me. You see this? I do not like this at all. I love seeing these beautiful stitched edges, but it's not worth having a wobbly spine, in my opinion. I remember when I made this journal, I tried really hard to strengthen the fabric. And I don't remember what it was that I put on here. I think it might have been acrylic medium or something to strengthen it as much as I could. So it's definitely stronger than a regular strip of fabric, but the strips are just too thin and it just doesn't work. I do love this journal a lot. I love the inside. So of course it makes me really sad that I'm not in love with the outside, or part of the outside anyway. Another mistake I made was in here. Again, I used one of these fabric strips that I dyed myself, and somehow the way I glued these 2 papers together, it became very stiff. So this doesn't even really open nicely. And I just see it just stands like this. I don't like that at all. I don't like the stiffness at all. Otherwise, it's an absolutely gorgeous journal that I still love 3 years later. Also, I don't like when I flip through this, you see this huge gap here? I don't know, I just don't like it. Again, some of you might, but I certainly do not. I do have the making of this journal. Again, here we have the same problem. Look how this just stands up. So I will link the videos on making this journal for you below in case you want to watch that. But this just makes me sad. It's just not living up to its potential. So here we have the 3rd one. Barbara, what did you do? Also, I do not like that these are glossy, these pieces of fabric. So that was my attempt to try to stiffen them. But I think no matter how stiff they would have been, they would not have held up the spine nicely. Next, we have this one here. Again, a gorgeous vintage cover. The spine I made with another piece of cardstock and some book cloth. This is the back. So it's absolutely gorgeous. Really, really love it. I made this one in 2019. The signatures are bound in with embroidery thread. Made these holes with eyelets. I wanted to be able to take the pages out and put them back in so they would be easier to work on, since this is quite a bulky journal. But what I should have done was, once I was finished with the pages, I should have actually sewn in the signatures. I do love these charms here on the bottom. So when you put this on a bookshelf, these will actually hang down from the shelf, and I think that's super cute. So let me show you what it looks like on the inside and why this kind of a binding is an issue, for me at least. I know there are crafters that enjoy this kind of binding, or they don't mind this kind of binding, but I don't like it because no matter how tight you tie those, you're always going to have wobbly signatures. I do not like wobbly in my journals. You see this? This is not good. I also tried the version of having an elastic band here instead of the embroidery thread, which might be fine at the beginning. And of course, it's even easier to take pages in and out because you can just lift the elastic band and slip a page out. But over time, my experience is that these elastic bands lose their tension, and then you have an even more wobbly book than something like this. So I made this one, and I don't think I have a tutorial on how I made this actually. I did use this in 2019 for the Ultimate Summer Prompt Challenge, which I held together with Demi from D Journals at the time. So it was a really, really fun project. And I do like things that I added, the things that I made using the prompts. A lot of these are not my style anymore, which makes me super happy looking through these pages because it shows how much my style has changed, how much it has grown over the years. And that makes me really happy. It's very nostalgic to look through this. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so you see, Na'a. This one here is another example of the same situation. I absolutely adore this cover. Again, we have a spine made out of cardstock and book cloth here. You see I have 4 signatures in here, and this time I have the charms here at the top of the spine, so they hang down, and super fun, no? That's the plain back. And same issue. Look at this. It makes it not fun to flip through it. This one I made in 2020. Look at this. This is incredible. So with time, these have loosened as well. Oh, this is horrible. This makes me really sad. So the question is, would it be worth it to redo the spine? I need to think about that. Because on one hand, I kind of want to leave it because I want to see my growth. I want to see my mistakes so I don't make them again. But on the other hand, it pains me to open these journals, and I very seldom do because it's not fun to flip through them in this state. Next, we have this beauty here. So this one is different. For this one, I sewed right through the spine of the original book. Here's the back. Really like the closure, which is the same as the 2 last books, so nothing new. And you might be wondering, well, what's wrong with this one? The pages are actually sewn in, yeah. But the problem with this one is, and let's see, when did I use this? This one was 2019 for Junk Journal January by Mia Vibes and Meg Journals. Oh yeah, and here I already see another mistake. You see this here? This is obviously washi tape that I just put on as it is without adding glue stick underneath. Because washi tape is obviously not meant to be permanent, and so look what happens. That's not good either. So what bothers me with this one is, and we see it very well when we look from the top here. So first of all, I don't know what happened here. When I first looked at this, I thought, oh, clever girl. It's a hollow spine, which makes the signatures lay flat. But then when you look at the bottom, obviously it's glued down. So that means somehow this just came apart with time, and it really doesn't look nice, does it? But the bigger problem I have is, look at these signatures. First of all, having 2 signatures is weird for me. I don't mind 4 signatures. I prefer uneven numbers. 4 is okay, but 2 is just weird. And in this particular case, we have one that is a lot fatter than the other, and this just looks completely unproportional. So what I would do differently today is make more but thinner signatures. So for the width I have here, unfortunately, it doesn't work with the width of the spine. But if I just take into consideration the width of my signatures, and this is why a lot of times it makes so much more sense to have your signatures done before you bind them into, especially a hardcover book, is because you don't know how big it's going to get. So this is a gator mouth, which I understand a lot of junk journal makers don't mind. I'm not the biggest fan, but my bigger issue is really that each of these signatures is just too big. So I would split these 2 signatures up into, at the very least, 3, preferably 4 or 5 signatures, because that would mean that they would lay flat and I wouldn't have this situation here. I could probably fit 3 in this narrow spine, but I wouldn't be able to fit 5. So I would probably have to take this beautiful spine off and make a new spine. Next we have this cute one here. Love the cover. And it's tied very tightly with a sari silk ribbon, because this is one of those books that kind of explodes a little bit when you open it. And again, it is a gator mouth, which happens a lot, in particular with altered books. So the difference between an altered book and a book like this is that in an altered book, you actually still have the original pages inside, like here. Whereas in a regular vintage junk journal, you would have made your own signatures. I love the concept of altered books. I haven't made one in a really long time, and I'm very tempted to make another one. The tricky thing is always finding the perfect amount of pages to take out for what you're going to add on top of the pages, which is nearly impossible, because when you make an altered book, you don't know how much is going to go into the book unless you know that you're only going to write in it or even make collages. I have another example of that next. But once you start adding ephemera and making pockets and adding tags and all those things, you don't know how bulky it's going to get. So you don't know how many pages to take out. I know there's plenty of videos with people making altered book junk journals, including myself, that have like this perfect formula of taking out 8 pages or taking out 10 pages between every page. So for example, between this and this page, there would have been potentially 8 pages that I took out, or 10 pages or 12 pages. But in my experience, there is no formula because it's not predictable. So what I have done for this one is I have taken out all of the pages that were in between the pages that you see are sewn down here. So basically everything except the skeleton. Here again, you see the sewing. So I always took everything out of the individual signatures except that one last double page that was still connected with these stitches. In any case, I should have taken out more so that it wouldn't have become such a gator mouth. But again, a lot of people don't even mind. But if I were to do this again, I would definitely take out more of the papers. And by the way, this one was also from 2019. So this was pre-Defemember, and my dear friend Maud Himstra had put out prompts for December 2019. So this one is another altered book. Again, absolutely adore this cover. Didn't want to do anything to it. How cute is this squirrel? And you see it from the top here. This is not a gator mouth. This works just fine. And I used the same technique as I did with the other one. I took out all of the pages in between the actual construction of each signature. So I always only have the outermost page of each signature left in here. And this worked. Why? Because there's no ephemera in it. This was a junk journal book that I made just for collaging. I started this at the beginning of COVID, and I had this very specific color palette in mind. So you see here, April 9th, 2020. It looks like I always glued 2 pages together to make them very sturdy, and these are super sturdy. These are very stiff, and they were great for collaging. And I actually made a collage every single day, or even sometimes more than what I see here. So it says April 12th, April 12th, April 13th, and so on. I love this book to bits. I love that it has a theme. So the theme is the color theme and not the theme of the virus. Although some of these pages were definitely inspired by the pandemic. Love it, love it, love it. So this is the last example of what I would not do. Again, this is more of a style preference than something that does not work. So this is a journal I made last year. It's called Sisters. There is a playlist for this one, which I will link below, where I show you step by step how I made this journal. I love the cover. The back is very plain. Now what I don't like is, see, I wanted to preserve the original spine, but the spine was not big enough. So I wanted to extend it a little bit. So I used cardboard and fabric underneath to widen it, but to still keep the original spine on here. Personally, I just don't like the way it looks. Every time I look at it, I'm cringing a little bit inside, because I wish I would have just made a whole nother spine, not even used this. But again, that's a learning I appreciate that I have. So I'm not going to flip through the whole thing. But one of the reasons why I absolutely adore this journal is because the way I made the signatures, because of the fabric I have, because of the many different sizes and shapes of the pieces I have inside. Having fabric to connect elements is so beautiful, because flipping through this is such a great feeling. It is so easy to turn the pages. It adds a different texture, and you just want to touch the pages. Yeah, so playlist is below in case you want to see this. I share exactly how I start from scratch, making the pages, connecting them, adding the collages, everything. So then this is an example of what I love and what really worked well. So this is a small journal, also a design team project for the Digital Collage Club I made about a year ago. You see these beautiful vintage hardcover panels here. We have one in the front, we have one in the back, and I connected them with fabric as a spine. We have the signatures in here, which are sewn into the spine with the sewing machine, which was quite challenging, but I absolutely adore the outcome. And I love that the signatures in this one are very thin. So we have 8 signatures in this little book, which makes it really, really nice to flip through, because the pages flip over so nicely, because there are so few pages per signature. It makes a huge difference. See, this is basically one signature, although it's one pocket, but it's its own signature. This one here has also only one page actually. Again, this one is an envelope, which is its own signature. And this really works. So I have a playlist for this one as well, which I will link for you below. And I just love the size of this. These small journals are just so much fun. I also want to share this one just because it's a little bit different. This one was part of a challenge created by my dear friend Sharika. She has the most beautiful vintage supplies. And every year she has sent me some and given me a challenge. So I made this in 2023, so about 2 years ago. And the challenge for this one was to use only the elements that she has given me, I believe. So she had also sent me a vintage cover, which I did not really like. It really wasn't my style. You'll see what that looks like, at least the front panel. The back panel I covered with some vintage paper she had sent me. Again, I made a spine with some cardboard and added some vintage fabric on the back. And the front here is a bit different because I wanted to cover up the original cover, because I think part of the challenge was to use that cover, which I did, but it's not really visible because I just didn't like it. I do love this one a lot. So the back here is an original French letter. Then this cabinet card was also included in the package. And this was the letter that she had written with the instructions. So this was the original cover. And yeah, I think you can understand why it's not really my style. So I much prefer this one here. So that's another way of maybe changing the cover without actually destroying the original cover, if for some reason you don't want to do that. Again, there are videos on how I made this. So all of these are original vintage papers. I really enjoyed this challenge, and this journal is definitely different to the other journals I made. I still love this a lot. Yeah, so you can find those videos below. And lastly, my favorite vintage junk journal, which I made very recently. I will also link the video for this for you below. So the cover, back and front, they look like this. Didn't do anything to these originals. I did make a fabric spine into which I sewed 5 signatures. And we attach the spine not only by gluing it down, but also by sewing through some holes that I made with my cinch, but can also be made, of course, with your regular crocodile. I love the format of this one. It's tall and narrow. I have not done anything inside yet. I love the papers in here, 2 bits. So again, go check out the videos for this if you want to see how I made this one. Oh my goodness, I love this one. And this one I'm sure I will still love in a few years because it is sturdy. This whole spine here is very sturdy. It has canvas underneath. I know this is not going to come apart, and I specifically left so much space that there is plenty of room to add ephemera or whatever without it becoming a gator mouth. So this is one of the ones I really thought through, and I know I'm going to appreciate that in the years to come. So I hope this little walk down memory lane gave you some helpful insights and maybe even a few ideas for your own vintage hardcover journals. Let me know in the comments if you've tried any of these techniques or if you've had your own never again moments. I'd love to hear your stories. Love you guys. Mwah, mwah.